Well, hello. Journey to my channel this time as we are hopping on our Comic Sunday chat. We here, we back doing some talking. We miss each other, so we had to chat. Oh, of course, we miss comics. What I'm talking about, comics first, and then we secondary. So, say hello to Mr. Sleepy Reader.
Hello, everyone. Very sad to miss this chat 2 weeks in a row. So glad it's back, or glad I'm back and it's back.
And Mr. Comic Crack.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from the outdoors.
Comic Crack is Mr. Cool today. He's outside enjoying his patio, nicely freshly laid, isn't it?
Actually, I'm on the other side of the house than the patio because it's shadier on this side. That side is right in full sun right now, so that's why I went this side of the house today.
All right.
In the background, there's no sign of civilization. We can pretend you're out in the woods somewhere.
Absolutely, the great north. I'm out in the backwoods.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, we're back finally. It seems to be we had 2 weeks of break of reading, but just before we start talking comics, I've been watching quite a few of movies and TV shows, and I thought let's just start with that for just refresh something differently. The first to mention, if nobody has watched, I know Sleep Reader hasn't watched because I just mentioned, Luca from Disney Plus is absolutely worth your time. It's fantastic, it's hilarious, it actually gives you emotions you don't know you have. For water, I don't like water, but that make me want to feel of water. It's fantastic. It has very traditional kind of feel to animation, and it was really kind of it felt very much like Italy, like that's where they were based in.
It looks beautiful in the trailer I saw.
Yeah, and animation is fantastic. The characters is hilarious, and the way they speak, of course, and all this Italians. Because I haven't met my friends I used to know in London, but I had quite a few Italian friends, and they did remind me of them because the way they pronounce it, and many of seems to be actor voices seem to be very like true to what they're supposed to have been, so it's nice. So Pixar once again has done a really great job, and I've such a fantastic, one of the best things I've seen.
That's streaming on Disney, right?
Yeah, it is.
Is it in the theaters also, or just on Disney?
I don't think so. I think they just concentrated, as far as I know, but I didn't really research. I was happy to see it. I was actually waiting for it. It's the first actually animated movie, not the first one, but it's one of the first ones. I was like showing the trailer to my kid to make sure that he gets excited, because it's two boys, having up to no good, but you have some other things. So my son managed to like that for a period of time, like how spam of them are. Anyway, so yeah, it was fantastic to watch, and I highly recommend it for all family. If you want to have a feel good in your stomach, this movie is definitely there to do that for you guys.
Have you seen Raya and the Last Dragon?
Pixar.
Okay, choose who's speaking.
I didn't realize it was Pixar. I guess I didn't know that. I know about it. I haven't watched a trailer, but I had no idea it was Pixar. Makes sense. I guess it's on Disney.
Yeah, Pixar, because Disney owns Pixar as well, unfortunately. What Disney doesn't own these days, but anyway. But yeah, Pixar is doing that. It's there, and it's, as I say, fantastic. Animation is absolutely fantastic. I just say, and also like Sleepy Reader just mentioned, I heard the name Raya the Last Dragon was as well as good.
Yeah, we just watched that here, so I thought I'd mention it while you're mentioning Luca, because it seems like a similar audience.
Yeah, appeal. And also it's fantastic, and it's also all Asian cast, which is fantastic. I really was glad about it, because they were Asian, kind of the subject, kind of in a way, and all the dragons actually made me cry quite a lot, but like hormones. Let's say this way for me. So I was weeping like crazy. Then something happened. So anyway, so fantastic in that sense. And the last thing I want to mention is Loki.
Yes.
I don't know if you watch it. Do you, Terrence? Are you keeping up? You all up to date?
Yeah, we watched the 3rd episode yesterday, and what did you think before I say anything?
I was saying, why are you wasting my time?
Okay,
a
we're
third
on the same
episode.
page, 'cause, I did not like it at all. I'm really The first episode was great. The other two really haven't done anything. This third one was horrible. It was horrible. I'm so disappointed. I thought it was going to be a really good one, but it's not working for any of us. And usually, like, if it doesn't work for me, it works for the family, and I can enjoy it kind of vicariously through them. Nobody was enjoying it. All four of us were just kind of like, whatever. I guess we'll finish it. You know, there's only 6 episodes or 8 or something, or we're going to watch the rest of it, but it was really not doing anything for me at all.
It's like they make a TV show episode for 35 minutes, I think it was, and it's worth time of you 10 minutes. You can squish that information in 10 minutes easily because there's the scenes and there's like there's a South African expression, joling, like walking around and talking, having conversation. I understand you want to broaden up the characters, but damn, that's just waste of space. Because you can actually put that in, of course, still have the same conversation, but somehow they may manage to put it so long. And you're like, me and the husband looked at each other, was like, this is boring. Why is it boring?
Well, the thing was, it's even forced, right? Like, it seemed forced. It wasn't like natural. It's just like, okay, now we better just have 10 minutes of them getting to know each other, and then we'll have this scene. Yeah, it was just really, I don't know, man. It's a bit of a stinker.
Yeah. And also that like conversation about their sexuality and all that. I like that train conversation. That was the best part because Loki was doing Loki stuff. But then afterwards, it's just like, it lost me. I was like, what the hell? Why? You know, like, we don't need this. And anyway, so it's just my feeling. I guess not mutual. Sleepy, Damien, you watching?
Well, yes, but I watch it with my daughter, and sometimes her attention span's not great. So we stopped in the middle.
Oh, shit.
And so I haven't watched it to the end, so I hadn't passed judgment yet. But what you're saying makes sense because obviously it wasn't gripping my daughter. But I meant to just sneak and watch the rest of it without her, but she likes to watch things with me, so we'll probably just wait and watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's too bad because I enjoy the concepts and I like the character of Loki, but my immediate thought from the part I've watched so far is that the woman playing the female Loki was not a great choice. It was a good choice to have a female Loki, but that actress maybe was not a good choice.
Something is not going together, even though they both seems to be English actors, because her accent is really as strong as is. Loki's character, I forgot his name, actor name now. Anyway, but it's the chemistry that wasn't great either between two of them. And at the end of the day, she is kind of rigid because of what experience she's been through so far. What we experience is as well what they're telling us in the TV show. But still, kind of for us to kind of have, I still like Loki more than her. And because of the way even though he's like not doing really great, but he still has that quirky smile, and you just like, okay, go for it. You know, you gotta do something really weird and add, but that's what keeps your, I guess, attention sometimes. You know, like that's why we are there for him. So yeah.
And do you think maybe Loki is just the whole point in their minds, in the creators' minds, is a setup for whatever's going to happen in a movie later, and so they're just, if they're dragging things out, it's because they don't have that much they want to do before they do the setup.
Yeah, interesting. But
we'll see more when we watch the rest.
Yeah, I think it's always, you take for face value when you're watching each episode, and afterwards you can actually, when you know the whole story, you can basically give them more points of view. But as of that episode, really, I was like, because I used to always look forward to watching it because, as I said, like Loki character. And another thing I will mention, because I've been watching, I don't know what the hell happened this week, but anyway, Ragnarok on Netflix, talking about Loki and Thor in mythology. So I was thinking I will not watch that, but I started watching it one day and I could not stop watching. It's this like teen in Norway drama in a way. It felt like it, but the subjects, the way they introducing mythology, because Damien, you like Thor, and I think you would have
I like mythology.
Yeah, so you will have a little bit more crack of it because it gives you, like, at the beginning of that episodes, they keep on explaining about the character we will talk about in that episode, and it gives you basically what the mythology is all about them, so those characters. And they take of that. Norse mythology. In Norway, there is this little town on Edda, and actually, it's very entertaining. It's very kind of comic booky as well, feels to it, because the way we may be acting, or maybe because we have so plenty of examples and stuff.
Aren't the stories in Norse mythology called Eddas?
Oh,
So it's interesting that the town is called Edda.
Well,
like calling the town Story.
Probably. You see, you know more than I do. I'm just take things whatever
I have to look for
I
this
see.
show. I'm curious now.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. I think E.T. and Nick mentioned in these videos, to be honest. I think, and I've keep on seeing that Ragnarok because we saw Ragnarok 4 movie. I was like, surely no, it's not good. And I'm doing it with subtitles, and I absolutely love it because the original language feels so much more Norse. Like feels more authentic. Do you know what I mean? Like Thor would speak kind of thing or something like that. So yeah, it's beautiful scenery as well, which is those mountains are spectacular. Anyway, so yeah,
while we're talking about shows, did either of you watch the Sweet Tooth first season?
Yeah, no, not the first season. We watched only 4 episodes.
Oh man!
And I cannot.
I finished the whole run. I finished the whole
Wow.
season, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. Like I was surprised.
Okay.
I really, really liked it. I haven't read the book. I went and got so DC Black Label did a compendium of all the issues. So I picked that up and I started reading the issues the other day. I think I'm like only 4 issues in or whatever. But man, the show was impressive. And from a couple of people I was talking to on YouTube who are huge fans of the comic, it seems so far from the little bit of discussion I've heard that the people who like the comic really like the show as well, even though the show was pretty different from the book itself. They hit some of the key points to keep the plot going. I was really impressed. It was there was one episode that drove me a little crazy, but that was more the guy who's worked on in movies drove me crazy in that way. Like as far as like crossing the axis and kind of et cetera, there was some stuff that just drove me nuts. But the show itself was, I thought, really, really well done. I really hope it sticks around for a second one. Because I thought it was really great. I was very impressed.
Have you had a feeling of Walking Dead? I think Walking Dead ruined every single kind of those kind of type of shows with illnesses, people get infected, how they treat the people. That I don't know. I'm just saying that's what I feel I have. I mean, I really like the main character for sure. He's my favorite. The football guy, whatever, American football guy. The big man, he is great as an actor as well. I think he is definitely there for me as well, but I'm not sure. I liking what I'm saying, but that gruesome part of the show, I don't know, it's just the Walking Dead vibe, like where people get slashed and like that kind of thing. It's just like when you see one, you kind of see it kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I haven't really got that much. I didn't get that much of a vibe out of it because I think it does its own thing so well, and I like the way they use these hybrids or whatever they're calling them, the Sweet Tooth characters, all those kids and stuff. And some really, the thing is that surprised me is kind of how dark it is, especially near the end, the last couple of episodes. Once you get there, I won't say anything, but it just the dark undertones, which apparently are even darker in the book. But again, I haven't, I'm just starting on the book. The other thing that was surprising to me was how quickly the comic moves. It seems like it took a couple of episodes to get to the same place that issue 2 got to, you know what I mean, so far in my reading. So they really accelerate in the comic. So that leads me to believe that they're just fleshing out some of these other areas a lot more. So I'm curious to see what they do. But yeah, it was cool, man.
You see, I remember reading, or I think I have an idea of remembering reading the comic Sweet Tooth, because I remember it's really at the beginning of my comic book reading is when I started going to the library and starting researching things. And the first thing I heard is Jeff Lemire, Sweet Tooth, and everybody was talking that time about it, because that's where he's famed from, isn't it? Because when he released that, everybody just started to know the name, and he got all the jobs everywhere. Started working for like Marvel, I think, first, and then DC, or DC first, and then Marvel. So, then one book can change all life for you when you are a comic book writer, something like that. But so yeah, but yeah, as I say, really well made show in the atmosphere, everything. The character seems to be really nicely fleshed out. It's just that vibe I have, but it doesn't gonna disturb me not watching it all. But I need to take my time. I can't binge watch it, because I remember I had the feeling when I was trying to binge watch like 7 episodes of Walking Dead, and I had such a bad feeling at the back of my head. It's like, no, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. This is it. This is too much zombie, like, for me in my head to digest. So because the only thing I was thinking is zombies, like that kind of sometimes gets in your head when you watch something. So anyway, so yeah.
Well, speaking of TV, Architectural Foam Panels and Columns is here in the comments, and he has a fantastic new video out, and I think it's called something like New Television or something like that. But it's actually this incredibly edited video where he's showing off old Josh Bayer comics. And so anyone who does not sub Architectural Foam Panels needs to go and sub him up and watch that video. Exactly. It's a work of art in and of itself.
As Mind the Comics would say, he's completely turning the comic book video on its head. He's bringing something new to this, all this stuff that we do. Yeah, no, it's really
making
the
rest of us look bad and lazy.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly it. So thanks for that. Good on you. We schmucks we're gonna be just there doing this chat all the time. Anyway, just joking. So
of course, we've never seen his face or heard his voice, so he could just be an AI or something.
Yeah, I think so, especially with that name, with all the complicated, logical name you'd pick. Anyway, so you guys, one of you, okay, Comic Rack, because you're outside. Let's give you a chance to hear those birds chirping, and you're talking about comics.
Okay. I guess first thing I'll start with.
I forgot I have to do a job as well.
Yeah, that's right. Something that I finished reading. I finished reading this Joe Sacco, Paying the Land. 265-ish pages, something like that. And I mean, I don't want to drone on about it too much, but the gist of it is this is a phenomenally written book. The information in here, the interviews that he has, the amount of work that he's done as far as who he's spoken to and their ideas, and the way he kind of parses out that information throughout this book. It transitions so naturally well, considering he wanted to start this book as a talk of, he just wanted to look at the fracking and the mining industry in the north that's affecting this indigenous community in Northwest Territories near a place called Trout Lake, the Dene people of Trout Lake. And it just kind of goes from there and talks about so many other topics. And it doesn't hit halfway through the book. He hits on, he just starts to talk about the thing that's kind of underlying all of these conversations. He almost apologizes to the audience. Is like, listen, we now have to talk about something that kind of affects every single story in here. And he does a whole big long chapter about the schools, the residential quote unquote schools that happened in Canada up until kind of 95, I think. And he talks about the effect that's had on people, and it's absolutely gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. After that chapter, I had to put the book down for a little while, especially when they started talking about 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-old kids, my daughter being 7, and just that image of them being taken away, and some of the first-hand accounts, because some of the people he talks to were in these residential facilities, residential schools. I hate calling it schools, but that's what it was, basically. That's what the idea was behind it. And just the thing that sticks out to them, one of the many things that sticks out to them, is those first couple of nights, just hearing all these kids just screaming and crying as they're trying to go to bed, because again, they're 5, 6, 7, and 8, and they've been torn away from their families. And if the families didn't give them up, there was threats of the government would take everything that you own and they'd throw your parents in jail, all of these kind of things, right? So some of the kids that they talk to, or some of the adults they talk to, they say that there's a couple of them that didn't go, and they ran off into the bush to live with their parents, and eventually had to go to residential school apparently when they were a little older. And just the effect that that's had on the culture overall, I think, is incredibly important, especially now considering what's going on up here in Canada with these mass graves and these unidentified graves of all these children that they're finding. They just found another, I think, 700 plus in Saskatchewan, which is the province next to us, at one of the schools. And these schools were littered all over Canada. So they're starting to do part of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report was that all of these sites needed to be investigated, and any sort of graves that used to be there that are now unmarked, or new graves due to these kids dying in these schools, needed to be uncovered. They wanted to find out who these kids were. It's unbelievable. Like, I mean, it's stuff that we talk about a lot up here in Canada. This is 2000, so it's 2020 rather, last year. So it came out last year. It's kind of right on top of our kind of conversation. It's a lot of talk on the radio, and has been for quite a number of years. But the recent developments have really put a different light on it. That was, again, always talked about by the Indigenous people that were in the schools, talking about, like, you need to investigate. So seeing some of these people and hearing firsthand accounts of them coming out of these schools, and basically the idea being that these schools were put together because they wanted to get rid of their culture. They didn't want them to speak their language. They were physically and sexually abused. They were emotionally abused. They were beaten when they spoke their language, any part of their culture, basically to beat their culture out of them. But the thing is, it really just moves from there, and how you deal with that as a people at the end, and you're coming into trying to incorporate yourself with this kind of white culture, or whatever you want to call it. And now their relationship with the world. It's hard to do it justice in kind of like talking about it, but I just thought it was just impeccably done, like from beginning to end, because like I said, nothing feels forced. There's a wide variety of opinions throughout the whole thing. They even talk a little bit about a couple of the schools that apparently were really good. They also talk about some of the nuns that were in these schools and how they themselves were torn away from their families, these young girls, 15, 16, and sent to kind of deal with these kids. It's just, the whole thing flows so nicely. And especially when they talk about the mining industry and how different groups of Indigenous people, surprise, surprise, everybody thinks differently about it, which of course is the case, but he doesn't shy away from any of that. He just really gives everybody their full attention, as far as talking about the people that are really against mining, talking about the people that are sort of in between, and talking about the people who are saying, no, we need this mining in our communities, because here's what we can do with that money. Here's, if we had control, here's what we can do for our communities. Talking about the new generation of kids who are learning about their culture from their grandparents, because their parents are so traumatized, and just the cycle of abuse that goes on in these communities, people that were in the schools then abusing their own kids, and the alcohol and drug abuse. And it's just an unbelievable book. I couldn't recommend it more. I mean, it really puts me on in place of wanting to read more of his stuff. So looking for his books will be kind of, it's kind of top of my list now, because I just thought, this is journalism at like its best. You know what I mean? This is not shying away from anything, and asking questions, and just letting people tell their stories. And his art, the flow is incredible as well too. The way he lays out a page, because a lot of the pages, there's not really borders around them. So you're just getting these pieces, but it doesn't, the flow of how you read everything is still really natural, and it's done incredibly well. Even when it comes to something like this, for example, if it's square box, it's him, it's Sacco kind of his voice leading into the actual speech from the individuals that he's interviewing. Really, this is a guy who knows how to write. He knows how to put together this information. He knows how to lay out a page. I would almost say that even if you didn't read comics, I don't think you'd have a lot of trouble working your way through this book. It's laid out in such a nice way. But it's heavy subject matter. So I mean, fair warning for that. It's definitely not light reading, you know what I mean? So it took me a while to get through it, because I would read a chapter or two and then have to put it down, come back to it the next day and kind of pick it up again, because it's also a lot to digest as well to some of the ideas in there. So I couldn't be more impressed. So I'm really glad that I got to give a huge shout out to Jared Osborne for pointing this out in one of their Friday chats. because I didn't know about it. And I was lucky enough to find it the very next day and pick it up. So, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I'd get it out of the way first instead of ending on that. Let's talk about that one first and then go on to everything.
It's the best way to do it. Afterwards, it's like, ooh, sour, like a bitter taste in your mouth afterwards.
Yeah.
Everything I've read is shallow compared to that. I think I last read some Joe Sacco in the late 90s or something. I'm not sure when those Palestine books came out. And there was some other book by him I read.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And back then he was getting a lot of media attention. I don't know if he still does.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he's still doing it. I hadn't even thought about him in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's the same. Like it's a name that I've always known, but I didn't think about him much either till seeing Jared talk about this book. And then now every time I go out, I'm looking for any sort of Sacco stuff, see what's out there.
Cool.
It's a pretty unique idea, especially when you're such a good cartoonist, to decide to do nonfiction journalism, and not just simple journalism, but journalism where you go to where the action is, so to speak. You go to Palestine or you go visit the real people. It's very impressive.
Yeah. Damien, do you want to speak about about shallow comics, please?
Top of my pile here was Phantom Stranger from 1969.
It's a comic. We talk comics. It's perfectly fine.
And it just sort of randomly fell out of my piles of comics because I've been slowly collecting, grabbing Phantom Strangers when I find them affordable, but not really reading them usually. I've read a few, but just stockpiling them. And I grabbed this. And to my delight, it's a Neil Adams issue.
Wow. Okay.
Uncredited. I mean, I could have sworn it was Neil Adams just looking at it, but I had to go online to confirm for sure that it was Neil Adams because I didn't want to make a mistake. And because Jim Aparo does a lot of early Phantom Stranger, and sometimes looks like Neil Adams. But yeah, it's totally Neil Adams. And the writer was Kanigher, Robert Kanigher. And I always thought of him as one of the better older DC writers, but this is a crazy story that just goes all over the place. It starts in Haiti, and there's this guy named Terrence 13. Probably Terrence's parents named him after Terrence 13, who is a debunker of superstition and magic and things like that. And he literally blows up a cave where this mythological person named Tala is supposed to live, but he knows she's not real. But actually blowing up her cave frees her, and she follows him back to the United States. And craziness. It's hard to even describe, but the Phantom Stranger just kind of shows up and fights her and saves his airplane because she's causing his airplane to crash. And then we switch after that sequence. And even then, after he's been saved, Terrence 13, I keep calling him Terrence, but normally they just call him Dr. 13. Terrence 13 says, "Oh, you just had some weird bioluminescence that you were using to make it look like you magically helped our airplane." But then we switch to some rundown neighborhood in the city where there's this haunted building and 4 teenagers
who look like 25.
Yes, and they also look like they're from the 1950s. Not, they look like greasers and stuff, rather like Fonzie or something. Anyway, they want to go into this haunted house, but first they need some cash. So they go to a junkyard to trade in some metal for some cash. And while they're there, the guy who runs the junkyard, who I guess is sort of a homeless person who lives in the junkyard or something, throws a magic book at them along with their money. So they just go to the haunted house carrying the magic book with them just because they've got it, and they drop it and are not paying attention. And then Tala shows up and magically makes it open to a certain page. And the so then for some reason when it's opened up, they decide to read the script in the magic book, which is all about Tala. but it makes these gargoyles that happen to be inside the haunted house come to life and attack them. And then the Phantom Stranger just shows up and stops the gargoyles. And then Dr. 13 just shows up and says, this is all fake and this isn't really a haunted house. But then we get a flashback to back in 100 years ago, where this woman was in love with a guy who lived in the house. And long story short, they there's no way to do a long story short. There's no real obvious story here. The Phantom Stranger finds a hidden chamber in which is a 100-and-something-year-old lady who's been sealed in there since she was a teenager when she refused this guy's love. And so she's been magically kept alive, I guess, and now can finally die.
Oof.
And they bury her. And Dr. 13 still doesn't believe that there was any magic going on. And apparently I was looking up, so it's beautiful to look at, and it's kind of fun in this crazy wonkiness. But I was looking up, and this Dr. 13 appears over and over again in Phantom Stranger stories. But he started with his own series in the 50s, in like Startling Stories or something like that. And these 4 teenagers are going to show up over and over again. And then there was also a
Vision. It was like Vertigo Vision or something, a one-shot of Dr. 13 as well too.
I should hunt that down.
Dig out of my bins to check it out. Yeah,
that's cool. Have you read that one, or you just remember picking it up? Or
I have it. I'm not sure if I read it. I have to revisit it. It might be one of those Vertigo ones that I didn't get to.
And then there's a backup story, which is just a guy picks up a chick on the road and dates her for a week, and then finds out she was a ghost and has been dead for 5 years.
Oh, that's a heartbreak in the heart.
But that also had kind of cool art. I like the way they draw the ghost girl.
Very sexy eye. Jeez, it seems like she's not wearing anything, just that slick silk cover or something to show all that beautiful curves.
It's weird to me, these mystery things from DC. They don't seem like they're aimed at kids so much, but I'm not sure who they were aimed at. Because it's kind of got a dark
tone to them.
They managed, within the Comics Code Authority, and this is before the Comics Code Authority loosened up, I think a year or two later, they managed to get kind of this dark stuff of jilted lovers who get sealed into walls and stuff like that into here, and voodoo priestesses and stuff without getting in trouble with the Comics Code Authority. There's this fun part where Tala tries to seduce the Phantom Stranger. And apparently this issue is the first appearance of the classic look of the Phantom Stranger. I'm not sure what he looked like before, but with his turtleneck and his cape and hat. And that was probably a very hip look in 1969, the turtleneck and the black suit or something.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a lot of fun to read. And for some reason, the fact that his name was Terrence made it even more fun.
The one thing I really liked is to look at your the panels in this comic book is definitely quite, and the colors looked really spectacular. And especially, sometimes your comic books are all the ones that don't get printed really well, but this one looks flawless, to be honest. I was just
That's
I couldn't
true.
stop looking.
So I think they had better printing plates in at this point, and sometime in the early 70s is when they switched to the plastic printing plates. So if you look at a comic book from 1969, it's going to look better than a comic book from 1974.
Interesting.
I don't know the exact cutoff date, but that's my general sense.
Wow.
And I learned about the plastic printing plates from Jared Osborne, so he's influencing everything here.
Right. I've done the same thing with those books. I pick them up when I find them cheap, and I'm not really hunting for them or anything. And there's a bunch that I haven't read either, so it makes me want to dig into it. I always remember the few that I have read, it's this weird bridge of almost like those ghosts and unexpected, but it has this Phantom Stranger story and then some backup where he's almost the host of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
A really nice mix. Really, that one looked great though. That issue.
Yeah. You can see the writer had all these different ideas and he wants to have these continuing characters, but it was just kind of a jumble. But I am curious to see maybe they develop all these characters a little bit more as they go along. DC and character development weren't really friends back in the late 60s, early 70s, but maybe they'll try.
Anyway, but yeah, very good. Neil Adams' art is spectacular in that time. I think that's where he's just went from doing, like him, but he's just like high there. No bad. And this Phantom Stranger, as shallow the reading you think, but just because of his art, of Neil Adams' art, those books are pricey, especially if you wanted to have in a better condition. They ask for more because of that.
Right.
So.
But some people don't realize there's Neil Adams art inside some of these. So that
but most people, especially dealers, do realize that, and they put the price up for sure. Because I remember I was spoiled.
if it's Batman with Neil Adams art, then whoa, the price really goes up.
Yeah, exactly. I remember it was one of those, like, I loosely remember now, Comic Mart visits now. I don't remember how long it's been now. Anyway, I remember was going to ask for some Neil Adams Phantom Stranger. I saw some of them, and stuff, and he's like, "Ooh, yeah, I need to ask more for this." Like, what do you mean more? Well, because it's Neil Adams in there. It's like, okay, so it's not Batman. It's him. Well, it's still Neil Adams. You can't. It's spectacular to look at. I was like, so I left it. I was just like, I just it lost me completely because this kind of it never happens, to be honest. But this guy's particularly, I think he was. I mean, he knew that there's something in there, but he was like, the minute I started to be more curious about it and ask the question, or if you ask the right question or the wrong question for yourself, that's when it's, by the way, architectural foam panels, Earl Grey will join us next week. He's busy enjoying himself, so he doesn't want to see these faces. So when he's going to be not tired anymore.
I can't believe that's it. Look at these faces.
Or maybe he's just watching too much Star Trek and he's like, forget about you guys, Anyway, so talking about Earl Grey, that's actually a good segment. He sent me this lovely 5 books of We Live, which I need to work still. Oh, Jackie, hello. How are you doing? I need to work. I keep forgetting. Anyway, so he obliged to send me this, and I cannot be more than thankful because these actually, I realized how expensive these books are, to be honest. They are like very popular these days. So I glad I didn't. I mean, singles, I wouldn't even look at it. I was already thinking about trade.
I think the first few issues sold out really quickly, and so it's hard to find.
Exactly. So, so this lovely third printing first issue has this. Oh, I can't even see myself. There you go. Has this lovely fold-out thing. I think it's all issue number 1. First printing was the same thing. I remember you guys showing me that. But so I was lulled in this amazing story. Where I was expecting space, to be honest, because that all of this aliens and whatever happens on Earth, and this Miranda brothers creating the story, and I was like you guys, to be honest. I was like, oh my god, I am like you. The first couple of issues, it's amazing. Everything fits really well. I'm looking forward to see what's gonna happen next. How big those aliens gonna deal with children and how they do the children part. I was thinking it's really kind of fascinating with this, arm and bionic parts and stuff like that. Really like this first issue because of these characters and how they have to go to these points where they need to be those kids who've been chosen to be picked up, and you have this things happening, of course, in order to make the story, and they crash the transportation, and I have to go walking, gets into the land. It's fantastic. Honestly, this first issue is one of the best I've read for what it was, what it was presenting as number 1 issue. So definitely really,
I remember loving that issue.
Yeah, really good. The kids part was making me sob a little bit because it's kids. anything with kids now, because I'm a mum, it becomes a very sensitive part. This part with this lion creature, I was thinking, okay, cool, no animal's gonna get bombarded. But then, unfortunately, the demise of the animal wasn't living. So yeah, so this issue was fantastic. Every other issue was absolutely as fantastic as they were. But we come to issue 5. And I don't know, I want to spoil it, but I don't know if people have read it. But
no, man, spoil it. It's been long enough. We can spoil it.
Yeah.
Is it?
And you've announced you're going to spoil it, so they can go away for a minute if they want to.
Go away. You go away, people. We don't need you. Anyway, so, and of course, what's the next story? I'm not interested as well. This is so disappointing because I wanted space. I wanted those unfortunate kids to see what they're going to be. I wanted to see, maybe, like we always think there's a demise, but there's a glimpse of hope. And then the kids leave, but the earth still stays. And that would be a great story, I think, in my mind. Yeah. It felt like exactly what you wanted to tell, because you have like 2 viewpoints to take away from, to tell us what's happening in here, how they feel on earth, and how kids have to deal with that. But no, they didn't do that. I was like, and this bizarre scenes with these people who made the decision, it really felt like almost like Star Wars-y, Star Trek-y part, really inspired by that because of the cloakiness of the characters. And
I thought of the Guardians of Oa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Green Lanterns as well, especially, yeah. And then this gruesome scene, and you're like, oh my God, this is not going to happen. And I was really like, surely, what are they talking about? This is getting really nice, And then this scene happens, and this one. And it's like, no, dudes, no. This is wrong. But I was really hoping I will be different. I would feel differently, because I had suspicions, because what your opinions were without vaguely explaining to me what this was. But honestly, the way you, and even I read somewhere, oh yeah, this is last issue, I think he even have a couple of words, and he's explained to me, but the more I read about his explanations, like, no, but this is not the right way to introduce the superheroes. Just go the original thought. Let them go up space, just explore that part. And they didn't, which was that, I think because of that they didn't do it. It felt really disappointing. And I was like thinking, shucks, I really wanted to have it like a different opinion to you guys, but I guess we all in kind of the similar boat.
Well, I'm still going to try it when it comes back.
As a product, let me say this way, as a product, fantastic. Or what Miranda Brothers has achieved, the music, I did music stuff. Music was really, like grabbed me, even though I was reading some of those subtitles, because it was actually, because Miranda Brothers are Spanish. So the music is in Spanish, because one of the brothers is a musician and the one is a comic artist, more famous, but they're all into arts and stuff like that. So this is a creating team. But the music really did me quite a few things, because especially there was a scene where they were leaving in this field, and that music really like grabbed me as well. So that really helped. And I think it's a really clever way of advertising your own brother who's doing the music as well. I think it's just like good advertisement for both of them, like really good product in that sense. But yeah, damn, really cool. I really liked what I read. So as a first trade, fantastic, really nicely fleshed out characters. But this ending, no.
Yeah. So AFPC is asking about the music component. So in each of the issues, you can scan it, and then there's a music piece that takes you to a link on YouTube where you can listen to some music. I did the same thing. I listened and read the comic, or read the comic and then listened to the piece of music afterwards. I thought it was incredible, and I was just so disappointed that it was just this fucking superhero universe set up by the end of it, because the way that everything was being paced out during the whole series was great. And there was a lot of questions I had, and I enjoyed that part of it. Like, I wonder where they're going to go with this. And I just had these, as it kept building. I mean, looking back on it, once you read that final issue, looking back on it, it's like, okay, that totally makes sense. They're setting up all the bad guys that now they're going to go and fight in future issues and stuff. But as I was going through the journey of reading it, I I loved it. I thought it was great. And even looking back on it, the art is still, it's a gorgeous looking book, man. It's really, really nice looking. I just had that ending that was just like, it was such a letdown. Like, I guess, and that's partially on me for sure, because I was putting a lot into it myself as I was reading it, imagining where the story was going. But yeah, I was just disappointed by it. I'm not so sure I'm going to try out the next stuff. I might wait to see what
you can
Damien
see what I say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then make a decision.
But the way they flashed out the storyline, you kind of get into the rhythm of you and want to understand what's happening, because that's what you keep on telling to us. You know, they will be taken away into space. This is the solution for your whatever species survival, because some dudes up there decided that we are douchebags and we can be saved maybe if you're going to be good guys by sending your children to up space. But it was just like really good way of kind of what can be done, you know, into space part. And it's like, I don't know if they're gonna do it, to be honest. It doesn't feel like they all even gonna go there, because the ending was telling us they selected a couple of you, like that brother, I forgot his name, it bothers me now. But anyway, that brother who is like one of the chosen ones superheroes will be, but they killed the other ones, and the way they killed them, it was like, it was like really quite cringy. But then like, and it kind of in the way saying like, okay, this is how we're gonna like completely destroy them. There is no point us going up there. This is we done that, you know. So the whole idea throughout the whole story, we just like in a way, but it's just you have the feeling, you get invested in this, you know, like that's how it goes with the stories anyway. You get invested, you want to see where end gonna happen, but the way. Like you, Damien, will probably tell us something. Hopefully,
it's
great.
like they had this fantastic science fiction story, and at the end they just say, "Oh, it's not really a science fiction story. Forget all about that. That just explains why we have superpowers." Yeah. However, we'll see if that's what it really is like once they do the next 5 or 6 issue arc. It's hard to imagine the people who wrote what we just read turning around and doing standard superhero story right after that. But maybe they are both brilliant and dumb at the same time, and they think that's a good idea. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, at the end of the day,
if the art is by Miranda, I think I would get it anyway. I already had picked him out before this book came out as an artist that I will pick up whatever he's doing and give it a try. In fact, that's why I got in on it at the beginning, because I just pre-ordered it because he was on it.
This hot brother, this the one who's become superhero, and she's there still. So we still having, it's kind of going to be real weird dynamics where she was the savior and he was the child. And then when superhero, he became he aged because of that, whatever arm there is, what makes them superheroes. So he's aged and she's younger. And the dynamic is going to really flip, because remember how she was writing the letter, and that was heartbreaking. And the kid was like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't know, because his naivety, like he was kept because mother asked her to keep him as naive as possible. So he can be, you know, like going somewhere and have like being
a fresh start or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So that was like really heartbreaking, but yeah, it's really good sci-fi stuff. But as a person who really loves sci-fi, especially space stuff, I was completely disappointed, because I really was hoping that somebody will take something different and turn it into something more exciting. But really glad I read it, to be honest. It's really an entertaining read for what it is, for those 5 issues. So yeah.
I'm often asked myself, if I'm really disappointed in the ending but had a great time getting there, was it worth? It probably was worth doing, but I always feel a little bitter about it.
It makes me bitter sometimes as well, especially if this one didn't have that much investment. Imagine if you invest like 50 or 40 issues and suddenly you don't get what you are clinging for,
what you're expecting,
and it, like people, I don't remember what story, but there was some of the comics I remember I was reading, and you were like lulling you out to this message they were trying to portray, and then completely forgot that message and end the story. Like, excuse me, you were telling me this amazing thing I'm gonna have to follow throughout all the 40 issues, and then suddenly at the last issue decides to cut it off and forget about it. I was like, so yeah.
AFPC is talking about soundtracks for other ones. I mean, there was the day of all the flexi discs coming with stuff like Tim Truman's Scout had flexi disc. Miss Tree, the final issue, had a flexi disc. Carlos Giffoni, who's a noise musician who also does writing, he did something called Strayed, and there was a soundtrack for that as well too. The book was really underwhelming, and the soundtrack itself was underwhelming as well too. But
I never tried the soundtrack.
Miniseries as a piece, you know, like a whole kind of piece. So it seems like it's happened a little bit, maybe a little more recently, because I mean, it's just easy to put that code in and then scan it to open up a YouTube page, right? I hope it's something that people do a little more, because I think it's a really nice addition to it. You know, it creates something extra for you, whether you listen to the music while you're reading the book or not. But I think it's a neat idea. The soundtrack. So I think the links are in the book as well to their AFPC.
Yeah.
For that Strayed.
I wonder if Govidal has tried this book and QR code, because he doesn't want to use technology in order to enjoy his reading. Because it would be nice for him to see because he understands Spanish, so he definitely would be enjoying the music, but it would be much more entertaining for him in that sense. So anyway, Terrence,
music with lyrics while reading is a problem.
Yeah. It's that's why I never like I couldn't. I had to, like you, like at the beginning of the story or at the end of the story, I usually listen to the song, because it actually kind of like solidified the story what I was reading, which is really helpful, to be honest. Especially have the feel for the atmosphere and how the kids was feeling. So it did kind of feel good, like more sad in moments. It really helped, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Now that I'm thinking about it, for Strayed, just for AFPC, it might have been a Bandcamp link. Maybe it wasn't a QR code in the book. Maybe it was just a link to, you know, check out his Bandcamp page where he had some pieces for that book. So maybe have a look back in the comic itself.
The thing is, all those QR codes, it comes to the YouTube channel. So I think if you go Miranda Brothers, I think or actually tell the name of We Live and a comic, and I think there's a soundtrack there, because those QR codes open all YouTube channels. So I presume you could be able to access them without actually scanning the QR codes.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
Yeah. So Terrence, what else you have?
So one of the other things I read this week was the next in. I had ordered 2 Taniguchi books months ago. The second one finally came in. And I was really excited about this one, more excited after I read The Walking Man. I had higher expectations for it. And unfortunately, it didn't live up to them. I thought this one it's kind of loosely based on Jack London stories. So like White Fang, etc. So they're sort of an adaptation of that to start off the book. And then the rest of the book is a couple of more stories that kind of take those same kind of wilderness ideas and man versus nature and go forward with them. I think because I had done The Walking Man and like these were enjoyable enough, I think it's another one of those situations where I myself associated Taniguchi with a certain style of comic, and this one wasn't that. This one was not like Walking Man whatsoever. This was very plot driven and stories. And they just didn't resonate for me. It's one of those books that I may have to wait for a bit and then revisit it. Now that I know it's not that style, maybe just sit with it a little bit and have take another shot at it to see if it resonates differently. Because there's some neat things going on. This was one of my favorite stories here. This man versus a bear who had killed members of his family. And then he goes for kind of his final confrontation with the bear. So it's a lot of, like I said, man versus nature pretty much through the whole thing. But yeah, a couple of them just fell flat, or most of them I would say sort of fell flat. This one of these final stories here, this kind of nice touching story of this orphaned boy who gets brought in by a family, and the relationship he has with his stepsister, who was also adopted into this family, that leads to this, 50 years later, they're married and visiting some of the places that they visited when they were kids and that sort of thing. interesting enough. But again, I think I was just spoiled. I spoiled myself going into it because I really I was excited to think of like a Walking Man type of narrative just set in the wilderness. I thought would have been fascinating, just observing the wilderness and observing nature, and but yeah, so it's sort of, there's other things that I think didn't work for me, but I'm blanking on what they were. I don't know if it was something with the dialogue that itself possibly seemed a little sloppy to me, and then the portrayal of some of the indigenous cultures were a little much for me, even in the way that they had them speaking in their speech balloons. I thought was a little odd, and I don't know what to write that off as, whether that's something to do with the translation or what. I can never tell when you're getting these books that are translated, like we've talked about in the past, if it's just someone who didn't translate the book too well. I would say that the art is really gorgeous. It looks like there's some literal just kind of photos scanned into the background. That's a good example there, where it looks like it's maybe just manipulated a bit digitally, taken the color out and made a bit grainy and put in the background, because to my eye that doesn't look like something that he's actually drawn. But yeah, so I'm glad I gave it a try. I definitely give more of his work a shot. This hasn't turned me off of him whatsoever. It's just this story didn't hit me as much as I was hoping that it would. So I mean, if you haven't read any Taniguchi stuff, I would say maybe start with something like The Walking Man, just to kind of get a really, because that one, it was just incredible. No, I don't think this one is a Holmberg translation. I don't know who it is that's done the translation in this one, but I'm sure that it wasn't him. I'll look when we have when we move on to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's not. And he's the guy that did that the samurai book that I read that I'm blanking on the name of, and he's highly regarded in sorry, say that again.
The Young Master you were reading?
No, the other one, the other manga that I read. No, not the Young Master. That was Larry Hama involved in that one. Anyway, I'll think about it. But the Holmberg stuff that I know, because there was an article with him in Bubbles magazine there, and they had a list of stuff that he's translated. Holmberg is a guy that I'd like to kind of find more books that he's translated, because it seems like he has a pretty good grasp on kind of translating that stuff into English. But so I mean, I would say for Taniguchi, try Walking Man. Maybe leave this, unless you're a huge Jack London fan, then maybe this will appeal to you more. We read that in school growing up, you know what I mean? That was one of the books that we had, that White Fang.
Okay.
So yeah, it has to be, right? Yeah. So yeah, it just was it. I'm glad I gave it a shot, but it didn't blow me away.
Oh,
it's funny, I was reading a Haruki Murakami book, a famous Japanese novelist, and the character in it keeps talking about reading Jack London.
Oh yeah,
maybe they particularly like Jack London in Japan. I don't know.
Yeah, they must. Yeah. Yeah, that wilderness aspect of it. Yeah.
I guess it was a contrast of the character's lifestyle, which was totally urban and kind of dull.
You see that Raga was saying about Ferrari new Tamagotchi manga, like Walking Man in ancient Japan.
Cool. Well, that's good to know. Thank you, Ragamuffin. I'll look for that one for sure.
Yeah, and also in Italy, Venice, for Louis Vuitton.
Oh, sweet.
By the way,
this is why we love having these chats.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm definitely planning to get Walking Man. I'm very curious about it now.
Yeah, so enjoyable. Like, really just enjoyable read for something completely different. Oh, planes overhead.
Traffic. Mentioning about manga, just before Damien, you can talk about comic books. I think Lighthouse. I haven't watched that movie, but you know that horror Lighthouse. So that famous manga artist, he done reproduction of that in comic book form. So what is his name?
He did Uzumaki. I'm blanking on his name too.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, my son told me about that, and he showed me a couple of samples from it. And the art looks incredible for this adaptation or whatever, because Uzumaki is supposed to come out later this year, the animated Uzumaki. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. Well,
Yeah.
I'm hopeful it's going to be great.
But have you watched the movie itself?
Lighthouse, yeah, I saw Lighthouse. I didn't like it as much as I liked The Witch. Junji Ito,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks to Raga.
I thought The Witch was a far superior film to Lighthouse. Lighthouse was enjoyable for sure, but I liked The Witch a lot more.
I'm not into horror movies, so that's okay. I really like the actor though. The guy who did I forgot the name again, of course, because the way I am. Who did Osborn from Spider-Man? What's his name?
Yeah, you got me on that too.
That wicked smile of his, where he almost goes throughout his face, because he has a perfect jawline for that. Being the Hobgoblin or whatever his name is.
And it's also the new Batman as his counterpart in that movie too, whatever that young actor's name is.
Oh yes.
The guy that's going to be playing Batman in the new movie that's coming out.
Oh yeah, the Patterson guy, isn't it? Isn't that his name? Oh, because it's like flashed everywhere. No matter you scroll through the news, his face is always everywhere. Batman.
Oh, Willem Dafoe.
Yes.
Thanks to Ragamuffin.
Thank you, guys. That's why we have you as well. for name calling. It's like, what? I don't know what I'm talking about.
Dafoe is a perfect comic book villain, I think.
Yeah, he's fantastic. As I say, he has really spectacular jawlines and all facial structures for being that crazy. Oh, I mean, imagine him being as a Joker. I think I would be like freaked the shit out for me, like with his face and stuff like that. Anyway.
Yeah, he would be a good Joker.
Right,
his
Damien.
character in Wild at Heart was unbelievable,
really?
unforgettable, just because he's so unique looking. Yeah.
It's just like perfect features, and like the nose. And anyway, talking about features, I like drawing faces, so I guess for me, I'm fascinated by faces anyway. So his face is not easy to draw, by the way. I think I remember attempting it and not succeeding for sure. Anyway, Damien, do you want to?
I read Cobra 39 and Cobra 40. First, I tried to read Cobra 40 by itself. And then I realized I hadn't read 39 yet. And so I read 39 and I really concentrated so I could understand what was going on. And so I'm kind of at the moment understanding what's going on in Cobra, which is not always easy. But the art is what's interesting. So I'm going to change my camera so you can look at the art.
Oh, you don't want us to do that thingy? You want the panel change?
Whoops. This camera. There we go.
Oh, okay.
So that you guys can see the art better. One thing I realized is the name. They're all like superhero characters with different powers, but none of them have names that clue you into their powers. And maybe it makes it hard for me to remember the characters. Chango, Gracie, Guthy, Zinnia. There's just so many characters, and they all just have slightly distinctive names. So there's also Guthy is like she comes from some alien dimension that's trying to take over our dimension, and her brother Formax, who kind of looks like Orion from Fourth World, is here. So that's part of what makes the characters confusing, I think. But there is cool stuff going on that as these people from the Ocha Zone dimension, I think is what it is, are invading, their presence is actually causing the other characters to transform and kind of mutate. But then the magical character Zinnia does some kind of spell and stops the transformation. And then Guthy has a big fight with her brother Formix. But then later Formix chooses her side, but then their parents show up, and then their parents have to be defeated. So it's all it took a lot of work to kind of figure out what's going on, but the art is amazing. And I think he is, Michel Fiffe is getting even better at doing this crazy stuff that he does. And so both these issues are just big battle scenes, and it takes a while to keep track of all the characters. There's this guy called I think Ranks, who comes from a planet that was destroyed by the people from OSHA Zone. I think that might be one of the parents there. Whoops. Here, one of the parents. I'm not sure. So it gets very hard to follow what's going on. So that's the big flaw of Copra, is the hardness to follow along. But like, even with this camera, it's hard to show the whole page. But this page is really great. For instance, there's these panels of people talking, but then around the edges is more of the action of what's going on around before and after they talk, I guess, or maybe after they talk.
Oh, it looks great.
So it's making me want to go back and read more of the issues that I kind of looked over and just admired the art, and try to track the plots a little more. I think on one hand, it's hard to read a lot in a row, but on the other hand, to keep track of who all these characters are and what they're doing and what their motivations are, you need more. And another thing that I'm realizing is that he is kind of combining things like Steve Ditko with things like Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee and that. So he's combining like the classic Silver Age with, in his own kooky kind of bizarre way, with some of the aesthetics of the crazy early 90s artists. And that really explodes in this double page spread here. And in some scenes, the characters, like this is a woman, but her muscles and her veins just keep getting more and more pronounced as she fights more and stuff. So anyway, it's a weird, there's a whole, this is kind of like the those all-time comics from Josh Baer and company too, with some kind of weird aesthetic that is based on other comics. And I'm kind of connecting them to certain Jack Kirby comics. Particularly, I was rereading some of Jack Kirby's second, or really his third, Captain America run, when he came back in the 70s and wrote and drew Captain America all on his own. And the dialogue is just really kind of super artificial sounding. Like, delusion, eh? I can feel you weakening, my friend, turning to mere putty in my grip. So he took the comic book dialogue and amped it up, if you will, so that it started seeming more and more abstract during this period of his career. And then, well, I really found this in reading that all-time comics. I always get trouble with the name that I got a few weeks ago that was drawn by Shaky Kane, where the dialogue is almost just emblematic of cliched superhero dialogue rather than really being about something. And while this Copra stuff does have a plot and things are going on, a lot of it is seems to me emblematic of like a symbolic stand-in for reading a comic, as opposed to dialogue that you're supposed to take seriously in a way, if that makes sense. It's almost like you're a little kid reading the dialogue of some really cheesy comic like this Captain America of this era, and you're associating it with the wild artwork, and it's all sort of part of some kind of, not kabuki dance, but some kind of abstract level of abstraction. And I feel like these artists kind of take that feeling of that time and amp it up further so that it becomes a kind of abstraction in a way. And sometimes I like it and sometimes I hate it, because I hated it in that Shaky Kane issue, but I've enjoyed it in Cobra. So yeah, and these you now have to order from him on Etsy. I'm not sure if he still only publishes 500 copies like he used to, or if he's publishing, I think maybe as many as he gets pre-orders for, because he does sell out pretty quickly. So I'm on an email list and I get an email saying the new issue's coming out. go order it on Etsy. And I go order it on Etsy. And I was looking when I went and ordered issue 40, and issue 39 was no longer available. But they will all come out in trades from Image eventually.
Oh, I see.
So he's gone back to his self-publishing. And somehow they seem better to me self-published. Like when they came out from Image, the expectation somehow shifted. Like it was supposed to make sense on a different level.
Is it because of the title of the who's printing it? It says Image on it.
Maybe in my own head, yeah. And it came out, and I bought it at the regular comic book stores next to the other superhero comics.
Yeah.
And it was on different paper. Like, obviously, you guys can't feel the paper here, but this is not the paper of it at all. A normal comic book. It's like expensive paper you'd buy at the art store to draw one drawing on or something.
Or a great backing board for your comic books in the bags.
Yeah, these could practically be backing boards themselves. They certainly don't need their.
It looks that's the same sleekness part, of your comic book board.
They can stand. I can't. They can stand up on their own like that.
Whoa! Yeah, that's definitely good quality paper. We won't destroy that quickly.
Yeah. I'm sure your son could destroy them, but
that's just like if it's paper, no.
He'd like the challenge, though.
Yeah, definitely. He will struggle for a little bit, but he'll chuck it away. Like he's probably gonna have a bite for it, so because he does that sometimes because he's crazy. Anyway.
Ragamuffin says, "Has Image become the big three of comics?" It's definitely It's definitely the mainstream of non-superhero comics in a way.
Yeah.
Right.
It's where the most slick writers and artists go when they don't want to do superheroes.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
I've got a handful of his of those Copra single issues, and the quality of them are incredible. But even seeing those latest ones, it really feels like his art has really grown leaps and bounds.
It has.
They were talking about the coloring and stuff in the comments and things. I like the coloring myself. I don't think it's mind blowing, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just his layouts and his drawing.
And
really
the coloring is part of the personality. It's very odd, odd color choices, and he used to use more of like almost a Caucasian flesh color as the background of like the paper. I mean, I don't know how else to.
No, it's fine. It's actually a fantastic way to describe
because to call it flesh color by itself is inaccurate, and it's not pink, but it's kind of pinkish. Anyway, he doesn't seem to do that anymore. But it's kind of like Matt Lesminski, right? He's one of these artists that even though he has all these influences, he's so doing his own thing.
But it's great
that you can't really compare it to someone else. But I do see bits and pieces of Ditko and other crazy things and I follow him on Twitter, and he's always posting stuff about old comics. Feels like he's just a fan of all the wacky stuff from, Silver and Bronze Age.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done a lot of writing as well too, like because I follow him as well, and I seem to remember there being links to write-ups that he's done about particular issues or a time in comics. But I think the stuff I've read has been specific to like a single issue and an artist and stuff.
Right. Yeah, he had an article that I found on George Foreman when I was doing a podcast about him with Longbox Review, and so who's a kind of an obscure artist from the Bronze Age. So yeah, he definitely has his radar. He's like we are. He's searching for the weird things in the past of comics.
Yeah. Talking about Image Comics being the big three, I think what will never in my books calculated as them big three because the way they treat the writers and
artists. It's all creator owned, so that makes it completely different in some ways.
Yeah, so you can call them that because they are getting popular, which is great for them because you want to be as exposed as possibly you can, especially making the money and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think you can call them those like big three known for being big kind of companies, but not treating people really nicely or kindly to what they're doing and what they're creating anyway.
It's confusing because we have the big two superhero companies. Right? and they treat creators horribly. And then we have very successful publishers like Image who treat creators well. Then we also have small publishers who do licensed properties and things like that, which is not necessarily good for creators. And then we have the truly indie people who, are turned up all the time by Comic Crack or Earl Grey. But so it's weird to say indie, but it's hard to have a good word for these people like Image.
Exactly, yeah. Anyway, I had when I was having like a break from chat, I was like having thinking what I want to read, and somehow this came into my eyesight. It's there because my husband is a more Punisher fan than myself. That's why I got this. This is from like this vast collection of Marvel's pre-productions comic books where you can get like I think it's like 200 of them now, I think, in production. So it's nice hardcovers. Like
Ghost Critic was getting those things, wasn't he? When Ghost Critic was still doing videos? Yeah,
I think he was. So
he did like a series on them, I think.
Yeah, maybe. It's been a while. So I had this one, and this is the story, Welcome Back, Frank, part 1. Unfortunately, I don't have part 2, but I was like, okay, it doesn't matter. The reason, basically, I had a feel for Punisher, but I also realized that the artist is Steve Dillon, and what I like about Steve Dillon is still from The Preacher, and of course, and mistakenly, one thing what Steve Dillon does is his faces are very similar. I mean, almost the same to each character, no matter what name it is. Unfortunately, for that part of his art, but in everything else he's great at, and I really enjoy it. Especially there's some crazy scenes which I'm going to show you and share to you, which he does spectacularly well. So yeah, this I've never went into really deep of the Punisher reading, and this was great to basically have a feel for it. What this collection does, it gives you quite a good matter of information from the beginning. Like it tells you what story so far, what happened. It's of course you get introduction, and then you have the back, which what I really enjoyed, to be honest, because there was a brief history origin of the Punisher as well. So it tells who created it. It's like Jerry Conway came up with this idea. Then Ross Andrew actually drew it, the first appearance in 129 of Amazing Spider-Man. And then apparently, who went to sketch and helped him? John Romita actually helped him. Senior helped him to flesh out that actual costume, because he had a costume of this black suit with a small skull, and then John Romita decided that the skull part of Jawline will be the armor belt, which is basically made famous for this character anyway. And also, which I was very surprised, I was looking at the back matter of the covers, and to my surprise, Punisher Volume 4, Number 3 from 1999 has been drawn, where are you, by Bernie Wrightson, which I want that copy now. Because I was not thinking that Bernie would have drawn a Punisher, to be honest. It doesn't feel like Bernie's cup of tea. Anyway, so talking about Steve Dillon, so this volume is basically what you expect from Punisher. Well, that's what you're going to get. He's going after a family because they were doing wrong. He's not getting justice because they are into like a mini crime. They own everybody, like they're part of this untouchables. And of course, Punisher is doing one thing. If you're a bad guy, you're going to be shot dead. And it's basically a little massacre, page after page. Punisher just going after everybody. And I show you that panel, which I absolutely liked. And I because what Steve Dillon can do. Oh, come on, Russell, why didn't you put a bookmark? You should be a bit more clever than that.
I don't know if I missed it, but is this written by Garth Ennis?
It is written by Garth Ennis. It's one of those Garth Ennis's thing. Oh yeah. So the story happening with this family goes into the zoo. This has this amazing scenes, and the consequences when you go with Punisher to the zoo is this: the lady without arms and legs.
Yikes.
Yeah, so that's what happens when you go to Punisher. So this is she's the cream of the crop, basically. She's the bad guy. She's the one on the top who says, shouts and everything. She's the family head who basically killed the family of the Punisher. So and is going after them and everything and trying, and he thought he killed her, but unfortunately she survived after a bear attack. So this is what's leftovers. And Punisher, unfortunately, saying like, "Oh my God, that woman doesn't die, and I have to go after her." So there's a lot of, as I say, gems in here for if you expect what you expect from Punisher. You know, like somebody getting eaten by the python in zoo. Really good, and I'm telling you, this is really fantastic. Like this facial expression is so famous for Steve Dillon. Preacher has blasted with that kind of facial expressions everywhere, and it just makes me want to like always read more Preacher because I miss them. And you have this wacky other vigilantes coming through because of what Punisher is doing, you know, like, and I don't know. Sometimes, you know, like half Garth Ennis is not always my cup of tea, but as a Punisher read, it was nice and quick. I didn't expect anything much more out of like craziness, and I got that what I was expecting. So no much surprises. The ending was a shocker because he's been fighting, and you see, oh my God, you see this panel here where you have a Punisher basically almost to brink of death. But of course, you have to read the part 2. I'm not sure when I'm going to get hold of the part 2 one. But it's really entertaining, honestly, for the Punisher and what it's, as I say, what it has given me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, and people are saying if you want to read, so one of the stories you should be reading is this. So welcome back, Frank. Part 1 and 2 should be quite good. So far, part 1 is definitely good expectations, and it's lived up to those expectations as well, which I like, kind of thing, from, you know, like superhero comic books, you know. So
I never know when I'm gonna like a Garth Ennis book and when I'm not. So it's good to hear from other people which ones are the good ones.
This one is just like, as I say, it's you know, like the character who is Vigilante is doing whatever he has is like a black and white, as they explain it, of the character, and nothing really gray matter between it. You know, he chose this. It's like a, and there's the story of like there's writing here, can he be a superhero? And it's like, really, can you call a Punisher a superhero because, or hero, not superhero, but right, a hero, because of the way he's deciding what's right and what's wrong is. But in the end of the day, he's punishing himself for being alive, to be honest, and doing what he's doing, knowing that. So in that sense, it's kind of appealing to see what they can do with the character. And apparently in the back matter of this book, it was saying about how difficult it was to actually have that character in that era of comic books, especially when it came out, because of, you know, people, you wouldn't have that kind of like a person in the comic books killing everybody just because he feels like it, because he's not supposed to, because kids are reading those comic books. You know, you represent the comic book company. So they were really had Gene Colan had really big troubles to actually put it into what he was. And then 80s or 90s, basically, Punisher became who he was now. We know for, you know, being that nonstop kind of thing of killing and doing whatever he has to do in order to achieve that something, or, you know, like achieve that justice to what he thinks justice should be. So yeah, really good as a entertainment read of Marvel.
Someone could probably do a study of the Punisher over time as the meaning of what he does changes with the times and the changing morality of things.
Because in here it was great to see how what he was trying to put the Punisher into, like he's hiding away because he's a vigilante, so he doesn't want to be seen where he lives because people will come after him, especially the people who's looking for him. And then you see this apartment where he lives, and people just greet him like because he's not wearing his ghetto, like when he goes back home, kind of thing. And he greets them. It's like, I'm being neighborly because I don't want to stand out of anybody else. So he's like pretending to like, oh, hello, Dave, or hello, this guy. And it's just a background noise for the storytelling. It's just the way what it makes it feel like the Punisher is not really just a guy who's doing whatever he's doing. It just gives you that a bit of a humanity side he is forced to be part of just because he needs to go through this the way he wants to do. So yeah, as I say, not too bad of the Distidion is great, as I said to you, because of those panels and what you expect, how he can flash out the characters' faces. The only, like one thing what people don't like is that every single character almost have the same face, which is the only thing what people can say bad about it. But I don't think you can say anything bad after that, because everything else he does it great. All the scenes and the backgrounds looks exactly how you would want the comic book artist to be. So yeah.
People were theorizing that the
black screen
Comic Crack logo was a virus that had gotten to you.
There you go. He's gone again.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. That was kind of, I think I drew that actually at the beginning of the pandemic, and then I made one of my big masks out of that image as well too, which turned out really great. Yeah, but I'm not sick. I'm okay. I'm surviving.
Have you, Terrence? Have you Punisher? Have you explored the Punisher as a character?
Very, very little. The stuff that very, very little. Like many years ago when I lived in Ontario, probably like 2000-ish. I remember buying a bunch of War Journal single issues because they were like 50 cents a piece to give it a try. It was never a character I super got into. I ended up reading the Frankencastle stuff, which I thought was an absolute blast. What's the Deadly Class Remender?
Yeah,
Rick
Remender. Rick Remender. That's the stuff. One of the best.
I thought it was a blast. I really enjoyed it. That whole stuff. I've since gotten rid of those issues. I traded them in, but I did have them and I really dug them. Yeah.
I can't find them really cheap, to be honest. I was looking for.
Okay, yeah.
Because of the popularity, because it's one of the best, called one of the best stories to read about with Punisher, is that Frankencastle, because of the Rick Remender's. The thing is, Rick Remender, superhero stuff is spectacular.
Right.
If you like X-Force, didn't get I liked X-Men, but X-Force was not something I always dwelled into. Read the X-Force run of and it's called Uncanny X-Force, and I couldn't stop. I'm still thinking about it. I honestly could probably go back and read it again, because I remember how difficult it was for me to get hold of in single issues. Even its omnibus wasn't reprinted for so long and used to be like what the omnibus people saying is a whale of the omnibus, because it used to cost you like £250, like £350, something on that mark of the omnibus. So yeah, spectacular.
That was one of the last X books that I remember really liking.
Yeah.
It was very dark.
Yeah, very dark. And also Deadpool was a Deadpool who I was thinking could be really nice Deadpool to have without all this quirkiness. He had a side where not many times you see that in Marvel. So yeah, it's definitely a fantastic way of using the character without having to do that kind of like third wall things. Of course, he still had third wall, but definitely not as what we have it now. Deadpool comic book. So yeah. Okay, Terrence, is it your turn now? Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I read this week was you pronounce it like Post, so Joost Zwarte, I think is how you pronounce the name. And it's a collection from Fantagraphics of Is That All There Is what it's called. And it's a lot of, I'm assuming, stuff that's come from anthologies and things. He did some work with Raw magazine, this being kind of his infamous piece of kind of this assembly line comic strip studio.
I remember that's the first time I think he was seen in the United States was probably Raw.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And it's a super fun collection, even if the stories don't always hit for me, as kind of odd as they are. It feels like it's another one of those books where we're just going to have a story that we can move the images along. The art is exceptional. The intro is by Chris Ware and talking about the influence that Zwarte had on him and his work. because I guess Yost has also done some architectural drawings and designed some buildings as well too. There's a YouTube video or two where you can find him talking about that and seeing an example of his buildings. But the art throughout this whole thing is just, it's so amazing to flip through. The angles, and this one I have in a Dutch Treat, which was an anthology of a bunch of different artists, and this I think is the back cover. So you read it one way, and then you turn the comic upside down, and you can read the second half of the story there, which is kind of clever, you know. There was one story that stood out to me. I mean, there's a couple of stories that stood out to me just because they were kind of fun. I couldn't tell you much about each individual story because, again, it's one of those things I just really get hung up in how freaking gorgeous the whole thing is. Everything from even like his title lettering, just really stunning, and different color use on each of the stories. But yeah, there was just some absurd, and then kind of what I didn't know is apparently he's credited as the person that gave the Linclair tag to guys like a Tintin creator, of course, as is our staple names are Hergé. I love this panel here of this car crashing through, beautifully done. So he was a huge fan of Tintin as well too, and you can see a lot of that in here, just in kind of the characters and the way that they move through the pages and things.
The colors even seem Tintin-like.
Absolutely, 100%, really great. Look at this. Rubber Paradise, just great. Rubber Paradise. This was the one, I think. It follows this.
That's exactly your cup of tea.
Sentient condom, and he gets disposed of, and then entering the world of all these other condoms, and they built up their little society. So just these very bizarre kind of premises for comics, and then we also get some panorama style write-ups and comics as well. And then there's also one, and then all of a sudden you're hit with stuff like this, right? Just gorgeous stuff.
Imagine an actual football being in that color.
Yeah. Look at this page.
Ooh,
Enslaved by the needle. Stunning, man. Like, it's really just the layouts and the use of the pages. Live in a condominium. Very nice, Scott. Thank you very much, Scott. Scott is here, everybody. Scott is in the room.
Scott has to do what Scott has to do.
Yeah, he does. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh, no, here we go. So this one is a comic strip matched with a write-up on the color process for printing. So a really, really neat kind of piece with these. I don't know if they're fictional characters. I'm guessing they're his fictional characters. This Anton Macassar in color. This Anton character comes up in a few of the strips. So at least I didn't see it. Maybe it does have it in one of the write-ups. There's not much in the way of where this stuff came from, where it originally was, published. But this is an exceptional collection, and again, Fantagraphics knocking it out of the park. Like, I love this page, love those colors there. So this was a really, really fun, light read to go through, just filled with kind of absurdity and silliness, you know. So really, really great.
Is that right?
Very enjoyable. Watching movie Killer Condom. That's right. Oh, really? Adapted from the comic. I've heard of this Killer Condom. I had no idea that was the.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. And there he is again, Anton Macassar, modern art. Gorgeous stuff. Really, really fun. If you see this, don't hesitate to pick it up.
Oh. Wow.
Do you think it's still in print?
Let's see what year this is here.
Tell me.
Well, I mean, Chris Ware is saying his write-up is 2009. Oh, here we go. It's at the back of the book. So this is 2012. So I don't know, you know. I mean, with Fantagraphics, I feel like they try to keep stuff in print, but I think it also really depends on what it is. This guy seems to be a creator. These are just the inside cover. The inside cover. Again.
What's the name of the cover again?
Is That All There Is?
Is that... Oh.
And then on the inside front cover has the same as the beginning of that kind of strip there for these individual panels. Just very precise work, though. This is a guy he's taking his time, and he knows exactly what he wants to represent on the page. And there's no, it's beautiful, really beautiful. That's all I'm going to keep saying. So I think we've covered that one enough.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's very available. Wait, maybe.
Swart publishes a magazine called Scratch, and somewhere I have a copy of it. I don't know where I put it.
I didn't know that.
And it's like Raw. It's the size of Raw, and it features artists from all over the world, with more of a European bent, I think, than Raw. But
not so easy.
If you can find it, it's definitely good. I wish I could find my copy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many issues there've been.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it to buy, to be honest, because it seems to be out of stock. And if they sell it, it's for like £80 or something.
Oh wow, really? Because I found this one half price. I think it was like $12 or something where I found it discounted.
Maybe you're just lucky to get that. Sometimes like
$25 US cover price at when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really great. I don't know much about him as an artist. I do know the name because, like I said, he showed up in that Dutch treat, and I've heard his name bandied about on various places and seen some of his work, but it's nice to have kind of a collection of, I don't know if this is everything, but a good chunk of it anyway in a nice soft cover format, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good old fancy graphics.
I'm not sure, but I just had a sense because of that Comic Scratches, that magazine, and he was featured very large in a book all about a Tintin museum in Belgium.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought maybe he was kind of a big shot over in Europe in the comic book scene there, but I'm not 100% positive.
It seems to be quite difficult to get hold of that book if you want to, like online especially. Mm-hmm.
He had a lot in Raw, if I'm remembering correctly. I think I'll never own those issues of Raw again.
Right.
I just don't want to spend $150 per issue.
Yeah, there's something that I would love. When I was in Toronto going to that comic shop there, they had some on kind of up high, and they were at least that, you know what I mean? Noah Van Sciver has a Art Spiegelman Part 1 interview up on his channel. Speaking of Raw, it's great. The first part is great. Just touching on, just kind of leading up. I think he ends up talking about Mouse and stuff like that, but just talking about leading up to getting into comics and wanting to do their own thing, talking about him and Francois doing printing. He's doing the interview from his place, and it's the same spot where he was doing the printing, where they were doing the printing rather, for Raw magazine and stuff. So I'm in a Part 1 interview, so I'm looking forward to Part 2. He's a hell of a guy, man, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Was it you who were talking about risograph printing?
Yes, he does it. Yeah.
So I was looking around for summer camps for my daughter, and I found this place that teaches Rizzo printing as classes for kids and adults. That's
amazing.
And so right now, though, because of COVID, they haven't really started back up, but I'm eager to try that sometime.
Oh, man. Let us know how that goes, and you should definitely give it a try.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That's fantastic. So,
just free associating off of Raw and all of that made me think of it. Oh, so I guess it's my turn again. Let's see. Yes. What do I want to talk about? Well, because it connects to the other stuff. I read there was, I guess, I don't know how many months ago now, this series of one-shots called Marvel's Snapshots. Oh, and at least one of them was written by Mark Russell, the Snaggletooth and Billionaire Island and Flintstones guy. Mm-hmm. And this one focuses on the Mad Bomb storyline from that first 1970s Jack Kirby comic. And so here's like a scene from Mad Bomb after the Mad Bomb's gone off and everyone's gone insane and destroyed New York City. And here is a similar scene from the modern take of it. Let me see. But he pushes the Mad Bomb idea further, like showing a mother killing her own child. And the child's trying to kill her too.
Oh, I see.
And they're both gone insane. Violently insane. And then it focuses on this African-American boy in the South Bronx. And so after the Mad Bomb goes off and everyone destroys part of New York, the slumlords of the South Bronx just burn down their buildings for insurance money, which is the kind of thing that really did happen a lot in the 70s. And the superheroes come and fix up New York, but they forget to bother to fix up the South Bronx.
Of course they do.
And the boy and his father work at a TV repair shop, or maybe it's computer. I don't know if they updated the timeline, but I think it's just TV repair shop. And they realize now, with business gone really bad in the South Bronx, that he can't afford to go to college. And he gets recruited by AIM, Advanced Ideas Mechanics. They realize he's a very talented young man, while the rest of the world doesn't. So he has no opportunities to go to college, so he joins AIM and gets technical training there. And he's so talented that eventually he ends up working on AIM's own smart bomb, or a Mad Bomb. But it kind of happens by accident. He didn't know they had a Mad Bomb at first. And I guess they may not have been the originators of the Mad Bomb, but it's like an arms race. Hey, if this other group has a Mad Bomb, we need our own Mad Bomb. Everyone's working on a Mad Bomb now. And he becomes kind of indispensable to them. But then it's revealed, I think it's revealed, that his mother is the woman who killed her own baby. And he starts feeling horribly guilty about it. So he sabotages the Mad Bomb but gets caught. But he has a backup plan, and as they're about to kill him, he presses this button that sets off the Mad Bomb, but sort of going inward to destroy the technology at AIM. And so eventually the superheroes show up and realize that he helped them out and stopped the Mad Bomb. And now Tony Stark gives him a job, and the superheroes help fix up the South Bronx. But, in real life, that doesn't happen. The superheroes, the society just forget, the poorer and minority areas always get worse pollution, and the cleanup of pollution tends to pass them by, and all that kind of thing. So it kind of, Mark Russell gives this a happy ending that I think in real life it doesn't really have, but I guess, it's Marvel Comics. So, but I thought it was interesting to get so much social commentary into fitting into the interstices of this Jack Kirby comic from 1975. So I really enjoyed that.
I have a question. How is the Jack Kirby's omnibus Captain America, like reading wise? Does it take it a long time, or is it like
I've only read the first few stories here. And I've over the years come back and reread bits and pieces. There's something weird about his Captain America. I mean, I generally struggle a little bit with his writing when he's by himself, especially when he came back to Marvel after, when I go back and read the DC stuff he did, I now think it was very good writing. But I didn't like it as much when I was a kid. I wanted it to be more Stan Lee-like.
Oh, I see.
But the writing at Marvel when he came back in the mid-'70s was weird. And then I think Captain America is kind of the most stilted of all of those.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, but it's not a great starting point for to read a big chunk of Captain America, or the best Kirby to read, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, Ryan from what does he call his website? The Ryan who often is commenting here, and he writes a lot of articles, and
Ryan
I know that
Perry,
he loves this Captain America run.
Mm-hmm.
So with a certain aesthetic of the kind of goofy side of Jack Kirby, it may be pleasing to some people.
For architectural panel said 4-color apocalypse.
4-color apocalypse. I always forget the name of his website, 4-color apocalypse, which I highly recommend. But a great place to find out about all the truly indie comics and read. He writes very well, so it's always good thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the last things I've read. It is the last thing. Wasn't one. It is the last things I read. So you remember, guys, I was keep on telling you I have I really have a feel. Oh, Constant Bramstar, look at this. Hello. I had a feel for this for a long time. I kind of have a gripe because nothing come out yet, because there's trades, but I have this Uber Alles edition, and now you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So I decided I'd go into digital format, Stray Bullets and Sunshine Roses. I kind of felt like I want that noir crime, not noir, but it's a crime tale, like a crazy, wacky story of non-stop things happening from one sentence to another one to get to worse to bad and stuff like that. And I highly, I read Ubala's edition and I loved it, but I cannot stop saying how much I really enjoy this black and white tale that Lapham is doing. Absolutely fantastic tales. I mean, it's crazy. The first story is called as Kretschmeyer, and it's this guy who comes to see Beth, and Beth is one of the main characters of the storyline, and he is basically like a proper murderer, and he just doesn't have no feelings whatsoever about killing. It's just his job. He takes it so seriously about it. And in this first volume of Sunshine and Roses, it concentrates the most on Beth, Nina, and Orson. And Beth and Orson is kind of in like a couple. And it goes through. It's like lots of people describes like a Kill Bill tale because of this, how much things happens. It's violence, it's drugs, it's sex, and all that rock and roll part of the storyline in the making. And he's apparently doing it for 24 years. So the Lapham is definitely invested. And this Spanish guy, what is it called? How we call him, I forgot. But anyway, he's one of the guys, like henchmen, and he is like in this story we have basically this Kirchmeyer is coming to see Beth by chance because he killed somebody, and she was like, "Can I trust you?" And we have this conversation. Then he ends up living with her. Then they become like kind of like not lovers but friends with like. I kind of started having feelings for her, but we never had he doesn't really show feelings at all. So Beth is like this character where, she has gripes because of whatever happens to her, and she wants to make a big deal out of it. She wants to save her friend Nina, and Nina is a lover of this main mob guy who she can't even say hello to any other guy, because if she does, the guy gets killed. That's how she's being kept to a tight leash kind of thing, and just the story just goes and evolves. And just example of this black and white art, which is absolutely fantastic, to be honest. And when you start reading and you get into this life of these characters, you just want to continue to understand about this, what's going to happen in and that's why I was talking about Uber Alles edition. It's high like huge phone book, but you can't stop. It just, you get involved. It's like a little soap opera, I think, in the comic book format for me, kind of thing. The way I see it, I don't really see it as a I don't know, like a crime story something. Sometimes it's nice to how he flesh out the characters and how they get involved into. Oh, it seems to be we lost a sleepy reader. So yeah, and this this guy with glasses, he's this friend of Beth's who basically they grew up together, and he's like secretly in love with Beth, and he's kind of like tried to protect her, and she's like, stop protecting me, I know you like me, but you don't do anything about it. And he's like, he killed a couple of guys because they like mistreated Beth. So he's that kind of guy who doesn't speak a lot, that kind of, not that I wouldn't call a gentle giant, but a giant who has his own kind of way of dealing with emotions and stuff like that. So yeah, and as I said, Lapham is creating this tale, which is difficult to be honest. A lot of people who I remember trying to describe Stray Bullets, it's difficult to explain because there's so much story going on. But it's, if you like at all of drama, of the crime part of the tales where drugs and stuff like that gets involved, definitely highly recommend. And I honestly, since I start reading again, I just like want to read more, and I'm really not sure how I want to. I'm probably going to continue with this digital format first, and then I'll probably, if they want to release the Uber Alles edition of this Tale of Sunshine and Roses, I definitely going to want to have that, because I have the Uber Alles in my shelf being so lonely. He needs a friend. So please release the Uber Alles edition. I'm not sure if it's finished yet. I know it's like 42 issues already in production. So I don't know what he is, how long is the story, or if he's finished the storyline. But honestly, Terrence, I told you that before, but if you can get hold of, just get hold of and read it, like an issue if you can. I think you can have some random issue to pick up, and I think it wouldn't cost you a fortune, just for you to try and have
some random issues here and there of it, and it's always something. It's one of those, again, amongst the huge list of stuff that I really should just pick them up sometime. I see them and I always flip through them because the art is really, really nice. It looks spectacular, and every time I feel like you show digital stuff, there's just an extra crispness to it that sometimes works really, really well. Sometimes I love seeing the pulpy paper, but I mean, in this case, I really like the digital look of that, the crisp blacks in there. Damien said that he lost power in his house and his block, so he might not be back. So we'll see what happens.
Wow.
But yeah, that looks fantastic. So I'm going to, next time I see it in the cheap bins, I might just grab a couple issues just to give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, look at how good that looks.
So this guy, they were dancing in this, like there's this outside venue, and he just pops the guy because he is like crazy, that Kochmeyer. And that's so, it's just what you don't expect when things happen. It's just those, he creates these characters where they are just, like it turns up and they're like, you have worse characters already. You have mob guys, you have henchmen, and you have those that Beth and Nina's like kind of like they're dropping in the wrong crowd. Like, when you get into the wrong crowd and things just happen. Or Beth is just like, it's her lifestyle, just be part of this. And she's like a badass chick, but she has these feelings. I don't know if she's like has feelings for Nina or something like that. It's just not, it hasn't been fleshed out yet in this issue, for example, because they're really concentrating that on them as well in here, and especially in this volume. But honestly, yeah, if you can, as I say, can get hold of anything just to have a feel of it, because it's honestly, it sucks you in, and he just doesn't want to let go, and you're like, okay, one more, feed me kind of thing. That this kind of read it's just highly entertaining.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. It looks really, really great.
Yeah.
I'm kind of running out of stuff.
Okay.
But
anyway, this is my last one, so.
Oh, is it? Okay. I mean, one of the things, it feels like I always bring it up in these streams, but the final issue of Storyteller, this particular volume, is Tricksters. And this one is interesting because this is the same story that they did in Norse mythology as well, too, with Loki, Thor losing his hammer, and the giants wanting to marry Freya. So Thor dressing up as Freya so he can get back into and steal his hammer back. So it's the same story. There's a little differences, some minor differences in this one. I really like the art on this one. I should do the credits here first. Robin Kaplan and art by A.L. Kaplan. Really, really nice stuff, but it's almost reminiscent of P. Craig Russell-ish, especially when you get into stuff like this. So it like makes me think of Norse mythology series even more. Just a really fun little story with Loki and Thor getting into trouble, and then of course when they go, there's Thor dressed up, and later in the story, Thor acknowledges how much he enjoyed dressing up and how beautiful he looked, and then drinking a ton, eating a ton of food, and then of course they get into a big knockdown, drag out brawl. So I mean, every time I say it every single time, and I mean it every single time. Just pick up these Jim Henson storytellers because they're a lot of fun. And if you do have kids, they're all very kid-friendly stories. There's some stuff that they've had, like when they focused, there was a series on witches. There was one on ghosts. Those had they may be a tiny bit scary depending on the age of your kids. But so that's this Trickster's run done now, all 4 issues. Yeah, I mean, just exceptional. I think I spoke about this on my channel. This Automa. I read the first 10 issues. So just when Damien was talking about independent artists creating their own thing, like this is created by Charles Forsman, and he prints and cuts each issue. You can see the on some of the issues, it's not cut very well whatsoever, but that just adds to the overall enjoyment of it. Exactly. This is an exceptionally good story. These first 10 issues were really just mind-blowingly good. They were so much fun because it's really taking this crazy science fiction turn. Kind of starts out as this kind of real-life drama and takes this crazy sci-fi twist that so far is working really well. I think there's about 18 issues of this now, but highly, highly, highly recommended. And his art is a lot of fun. He has that kind of naive-ish type style to some of it, but I really like the minimal backgrounds and just the minimal art on the page itself, just to kind of give you a sense of everything. So that's highly, highly recommended for a really good story. And again, one of those stories where I have no idea where it's going to go. I haven't the faintest idea. Even after reading issue 1, 2, thinking it was going to go a certain direction and being completely wrong. It's nice when you can still get surprised by stuff like that. Like we were talking, We Live at the beginning. This one, when it takes you on that journey, it's not disappointing yet because it doesn't turn into a superhero book. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's recommended for sure. And then the other stuff I have is just single issues of stuff that I've read, the DC stuff, the Wonder Woman Black and Gold, which I won't say too much about because
you were disappointed in it.
Hugely disappointed. I thought this was crap. The art and stuff was really great. The art was really great, but it's one of those things like when it's a reminder of kind of why I don't read as much Marvel and DC anymore. It was so disjointed. There was stuff here. There was the first couple of stories that I was like, this would be great for Lillian. I'll pass this off to her. And then there's stories later on that's like, well, that's not good for Lillian. It gets a little intense. So it's this thing of like, who are you writing the books for? You know, and I hate to sound like an old man, but because I would be fine if it was more geared towards kids. That's absolutely fine by me. You know what I mean? I think that would be really great. But it's this mixing and matching of stuff. And then just stories that are just kind of dull, you know, with a character that's pretty great. And then it just makes me think of like, well, of course it's not necessarily going to appeal to me because it's a superhero comic. And I start thinking that, you know what I mean? Like I'm just maybe over reading superhero stories. But then I pick up and I read Batman: The Adventure Continues.
Don't spoil it.
I won't do anything. No, I won't spoil anything.
Because my comic book guy actually has a copy, which I was like amazed. I was like, he's keeping me. I'm gonna get next week so we can talk about it in depth.
Yeah, sweet. I'll make sure that I bring it back. But I mean, the thing with this one is, once I read this one after reading that Wonder Woman, realizing how much I absolutely love it, because I thought this was a really fun issue. And again, it's like, it's geared a little more to kids for sure, but it's just so much fun, this one. So I'm really looking forward to you getting it. And if he can get you any of the other, like the first season or whatever they're calling it, grab those too, because I've got like 5 of those. I'm still hunting for the rest of it to finish off that arc so I can read it all in one sitting. But this is so much fun, and it just is a nice throwback to the animated show.
Yeah.
The art style is really great. You get our favorite dead man in this issue as well too. Just a lot of fun. It's really, really fun. I won't spoil it. Yeah, that's a good comment, Sean.
Oh, said Damien is definitely not. He's definitely not turning up because his powers for 3 hours now. So he's sorry to lose him.
Yeah. I found some of these in the bins.
Wow.
Issue number 2 to 5. It was a 6-issue series, so I couldn't find number 1 and 6. I read it anyway, kind of in one sitting. And again, it's so good. The art is really not that good, but the story is so much fun. There's a lot of throwbacks to stuff that happens in the series and stuff. And I understand why they do that, to kind of keep you as a fan of the show involved with that. I must be right in the sun because I look all washed out there. There we go.
Yeah.
And then just finally, I picked up 1 issue of this. They talked about it on the Kayfabe channel, the Elektra Saga. So it's like a 4-issue series where they just take the Elektra bits out of the Daredevil run and put those together.
I have it. I have the whole run.
You do? Okay. I found the other issues. One of the local Comic Addict guys has them, so I'm going to hopefully pick them up in the next week or so from him, because he's got the other 3 issues. This was great to read. I mean, I've read most of this stuff already, but I think it's a really neat idea to put everything together in one. It does feel a little disjointed at times. It does feel like you're missing someone as they jump from Elektra story to Elektra story within those comics.
Exactly.
But a very cool way to do it, I think. So, So that was pretty much my reading this week. That was pretty much all of it.
Oh, really?
It felt like a heavier week, especially with the graphic novels that I read this week.
This is just to prove to architectural panels about Amy Racer in Stray Bullets. So there you go. She's appearing in this as well. He was mentioning in the comments that saying about that he read about Amy Racer, because Amy Racer is appearing in Stray Bullets everywhere. She's it's like a break of the storyline, kind of, because she's like the character in here looks like Orson's creating her as like something he's imagined of. So not a lot of people even like it, because it's actually quite a shocker, because he's using the same characters but putting them in completely like they're supposed to be younger in here, like 10, 12 years old, and they meet this Orson, like it's not Orson, but it's the guy who is basically invented this, or they have an idea for him to write, but he needs a writer. So it's interesting sometimes, but it's like a little bit jarring sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to read. I mean, and generally this Stray Bullet is great, and it gives you a little bit more details about the characters and stuff like that.
So he's talking about the color issues. So when it came out originally, they were color. For this version, it's black and white. Is that?
No. The Amy Racer, he completely published it separately as well from Stray Bullets, as far as I know. So if it says in the color, that will be interesting actually to see Lapham's art in color, because most of the things where I know Lapham is black and white.
Black and white, yeah, that's what I thought as well too. Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to that Batman animated things, because I looked through a couple of they have those previews pages, and I was like, oh my god! And I saw Deadman, because you showed me Deadman. I was like, oh no, I have to have it, because I am kind of like, especially seeing him in that animated series part is like would be interesting. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And
I'm looking forward to the series too when it finally comes out, whenever that is. The new animated stuff, I think will be. I'm hoping it'll be a lot of fun anyway.
Anyway, so yeah, this is, I have nothing else and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'm done.
I was having this. Batman kick, and I remember that I've never finished this.
Oh man, so good.
People are usually reading it before the Halloween, but I'm not. I never celebrate Halloween, so. But it's apparently kicking up because of there's an animated series, or not series, but animated movie came out.
Oh really?
So everybody went on this because I like watching animated DC movies for sure. It's one of the more strong points I feel from the creators and everything, and DC especially. So yeah, I remember having it. I remember tackling it, but I never finished. I don't know why. Sometimes with me and random reading, and it's only 12. Right. How many issues?
Is it 12 plus one special one or something like that? They might have done a couple of one-offs.
Yeah, it's 13 issues I have in here. So it's the first, whatever they came out. So yeah, I remember really difficult. It's quite pricey, to be honest, now to get all
sure
this.
Is, yeah. Yep.
I remember I seen it on eBay. I was like, tempted. Maybe I should just. But I kind of would like to first read it and see how I feel about it, because I really like Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale joined together work, because they are really good in like Superman is like really nicely did something like that on DC work. So. And
also Dark Victory was the other one I think too that they did together, the Batman one, which was really great.
Yeah, I still missing one issue of that Dark Victory. Oh, okay. I was starting to read, and I was like, I realized, you start reading something, you in the back of your head, you start to research a little bit, and you research, it's like, oh shit, I don't have it. So I stopped reading it in that time. So.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so do you have anything else to talk about?
No, that's it. Yeah, that's all I got really.
Yeah, it's a pity. Sleep Reader would be enhancing this conversation a little bit more, but
right. Well, and he'd also have some stuff too. But like I said, the other stuff, I enjoyed it, but there's not really much else to say about those single issues. I don't really want to go too much into stuff that I didn't like, because why bother?
Why bother mention? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So thank you very much. Sorry for Sleep Reader not to be here, but we'll do that next week. Who is going to be next week to partake in?
I think it might be Damien's turn. It's either Damien or Earl Grey. I don't remember. We'll figure it out, I'm sure, because Earl Grey will be back next week.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so we're traveling next time to somebody else. So keep an eye on this crazy chat. Anyway, so thank you very much for all of you Zesty Clams, architectural foam panels and columns. That's a mouthful. Scott Connor, Sean Rias, Ragamuffin, and then Jay, Constant Browster, of course, and I saw JT, I think, or Jay, one of the J's guys. Anyway,
Scott,
so thank you.
Of course, was in there.
Yeah, so thank you very much for everything, and we'll see you soon.
Right on.
Bye.
Bye.